Hello, 1 2 1 2.
Oh, yeah, we're fine. Hello and welcome to the debrief. It's Dave O'Neill here in the beautiful town of Myrtleford, nestled at the bottom of the mountains in the Alpine region of Victoria. About to do a gig with the Lehmo for Bushfire relief.
Going for a drive, do a little gig, then drive back with the chat. It's called the debrief. It's called the debrief. It's called the debrief. It's called the debrief. It's called the debrief.
And we're back. Lehmo, how are you?
Hello, Dave. You've just reminded me that I totally forgot a joke that I've been doing that is set in the high country. And it's about, I talk about my relationship issues with my wife.
Yeah, we've all got those.
We've all got those.
Yeah.
And it's
Not just with your wife, with your own wife.
It's
Yeah.
an old comedy trope, having issues with your wife.
Yes.
And
My wife.
I talk about this story about a woman in the high country. This happened in May last year, and it's the 12-month anniversary of it as well. Bloody hell. Where, I don't know if you remember this story, she was missing for 5 days
Oh, that's right.
with no phone reception, and they eventually found her, and police said it was an amazing survival
She
story.
survived on...
She survived on lollies and red wine for 5 days. To which I say, that's not a survival story, that's a getaway.
Yes. They would have loved that last night at the Great.
But I bloody forgot. They were a good bunch though, weren't
Yeah, so it was Club Savoy, which is like the Italian club in Myrtleford, because Myrtleford has a big history of tobacco growing, which we learn about. And all the Italians used to grow tobacco up there.
they? Yeah.
And there's a bit of money. Now I didn't know this, they've all moved into growing hops.
And
For beer.
I was reliably informed last night that some of the best hops in the world are grown at Myrtleford.
Yes. Yes.
It is hop country. So if you're a farmer, you're growing hops, or
Yeah.
you're running some cattle.
Yeah. And then it's right near the snowfields. So
Yeah.
you get all of that tourism, but it's actually a very cute town, Myrtleford. My wife lived there when she was a child because her dad was a minister there, a Uniting Church minister.
Yes, right.
And then controversially, he ran as a Labor candidate in that seat and you can imagine the local vicar running as a candidate for the ALP in a country seat. Didn't go down too well with the parishioners. And
but it makes sense. It makes sense that a priest would be a Labor candidate.
Yeah, because they're all about the people.
Yeah.
And especially Uniting Church, they're a bit more left-wing. And anyway, I think he resigned before he wasn't successful in the election, but I think they had to leave the town or something.
Were they run out of town
town.
with pitchforks?
But I was telling you, like, being a minister's daughter, my wife is a minister's daughter,
Yeah.
being the minister's wife, poor Betty, my mother-in-law, who's sadly passed away, she was just always on duty, just making scones and cups of tea for parishioners who just wander into their house, which was next door to the church, like a social worker.
So any parishioner with a personal problem,
Yeah,
they had an open door policy,
absolutely.
and you could just wander in.
Rock up.
And we're talking 1970s.
70s it would have
So
been.
it's not like you had a local therapist,
No.
or a local counsellor.
No.
Any of them could go and see.
It was up to Betty and Lindsay, the husband. Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
as I mentioned to you earlier, Dave, would be a great premise for a sitcom.
It would be.
A
Yeah.
local priest in a country town,
With
and
all-
everyone just rolls through the door sharing all their problems.
all the issues. He was interesting, Lindsay, because I've been with my wife for 33 years. Mate, you get less for manslaughter. I could have murdered 2 people and got out by now. Anyway, my wife. Take my wife, please.
Please, take
meet
my
my
wife.
wife. She gives good headache. The great Rodney Dangerfield. But
Gives
I took
good headache.
my mother-in-law on a pleasure trip to the airport. Anyway, my wife. But
It's all good stuff.
when her dad, interesting, not dissimilar to my dad in a way, the only way Lindsay could get a tertiary education was to join the priesthood and become a minister, and then they put him through university to become a teacher, I think it was. But
Right.
there was no way, like my dad had joined the Air Force to get educated. So back in those days, I was actually looking this up because I was talking to the kids. We've been watching Friday Night Lights. You seen that?
Oh, yeah. No,
that
you know what? I have to.
Oh, mate, you
Friday
gotta
Night
watch
Lights
it.
is one show that I've completely missed.
Oh, mate, you'd love it.
I
And
got-
let me tell everyone, it's on 7+, so it's free.
Oh.
It's also on Amazon Prime, but it's
Yeah.
free on 7+, the whole 6 series of it. Oh, you'd love it because
6 seasons.
6
yeah.
or 8 seasons. It was an NBC show, which is the equivalent of being like a Channel 9 show here.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like a drama about a footy team, American football in a small town in America. But I'm not into American football, but it's fantastic because it's more about the lives of the kids, the coach,
Yes.
who's a great actor, Kyle Chandler, and then the wife, of course, is appreciate that, the woman from Nashville, and
Right.
she's great. I don't know, your son might be a bit young, but there's no real there's like sexual innuendo and
Could he
stuff.
watch it?
Yeah, he probably could.
You know what?
My teenage daughter loves it because it's all
Okay.
about teenagers at high school too. So,
Right. All right. Well, I've got to add that to my.
but that is a great show, and they all talk about they have black kids, white kids, Spanish kids,
Yeah.
and they all talk about the black kids are always poor, and that's their way out is football. You know what I mean? That's
Sure.
that's the way they get a college education. And so my daughter was saying, what's the percentage of people in America that go to uni? And I looked it up. What do you reckon is the percentage
Okay,
of
I think
Americans that go to college?
Yeah. For some reason, I feel like it's high.
Yes.
So I'm going to
Yes.
say
Yes.
85%.
60%.
60%.
Okay, what is the percentage?
You know what? I thought it would be higher.
Yeah, well, back in when our parents' day. So what's Australia?
In Australia,
what percentage of people go to tertiary education?
Yeah, right. See, again, I would have guessed about 60 for Australia,
No.
but I'm going to say it's lower, 40%.
35.
35? Only
Yeah.
a third?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
back
it's,
when I started university, and certainly when my dad and Lindsay got educated in the 70s, they would have gone to university, or the 80s. It was below 10%.
Yeah, right.
University was really only for wealthy people or people that were so remarkable at school.
But wasn't it free back then?
Oh yeah, I went to uni, it was free. Absolutely.
So why is it only for wealthy people?
It only became free when Gough Whitlam made it free.
Ah, right.
And it was
okay.
only free for a period of about
Well, you had
20 years maybe.
you had to start paying for it mid my university
Yeah,
degree.
so late 90s, early 90s?
So I did.
Late
I
80s?
got through the first 2 years, 87, 88.
Yeah.
So 89, you had to start
Yeah,
paying.
yeah. I finished my second degree in 92 and I paid 1 or 2 years of HECS.
Yes.
But I got most of my tertiary education for free. And what this is why Anthony Albanese never liked Hawke or Dawkins and Howard, because they were the guys that brought in HECS. It was a combination of the Labor and Liberal governments in the 80s that introduced HECS. And these guys all benefited from free tertiary education. And yet when they got into power, they charged for tertiary
Yeah, right.
education. And as I don't know if it was Albanese, but it's one of my favourite sayings, they pulled the ladder up. Yep,
They
they pulled the ladder up.
Pulled the ladder
The
up.
only other time I've seen that
Oh,
used
that's great.
was one time on social media. They put Simon Palomares, who's been on this podcast, had a quote from Ando in the paper. They asked Ando about the recent refugee. This was with all the stop the boats.
Yeah.
And he said, "That's not really a matter for me. That's a matter for the government." And Simon Palomares said, "He's pulled the ladder up."
Right
He's pulled the
there.
ladder up.
Right there.
It is
Well,
the
it's like-
greatest saying ever. He's
It
pulled
is
the ladder up.
a great saying. Well, don't they in Florida, a lot of the Latino population in Florida
Oh yeah,
are Trump supporters because
Yeah.
they want to stop.
yeah.
They've had enough of the immigration.
I always remember when they had these racists in WA. There were these guys that were leading like the white power, setting fire to Chinese restaurants, and they were called the Von Ronigans, and they were all Dutch Indonesian immigrants.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like, mate, you're an immigrant yourself. And the guy said he regretted setting fire to the local Chinese restaurant because he quite liked the fried rice when he was arrested. It's like,
Extra fried rice now.
yeah. Oh, mate, special fried rice. But okay, so what's the percentage of England that are... I looked these all up. but
Right, this is interesting.
What's the percentage of England
I
that tertiary
feel like
educated?
England is in our sort of ballpark.
Yes.
So I'm going to say If we're 35, I would say England's 30.
Oh, man, no, they're 38, I think, by memory.
38, right, okay.
They're a bit better than us. But yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But I always wanted to see how many people finish college in America because
in America, I feel like through my consumption of fucking American
TV shows
culture, that it's just a given that you go to college.
Yes, and also there's different, by watching Friday Night Lights, there's different stratas. There's community college, which is kind of like, and then there's the big ones like, obviously there's Yale and Harvard, but then there's the next strata down, the sort of the Ivy League, and then and community college is like going to like your local kind of uni kind of.
Yeah, right.
But also in America, you move away. You live on campus mainly.
Yes.
Which we don't really do that much.
Most people live attending the college. Will live on the campus.
Did you live at uni? Did you being from a boarding school?
I went to boarding school to go to school, and then when I was at university, I stayed at Aquinas College, which is a residential college.
Yeah. So you were like,
the Catholic country kids who were going to university.
Yeah, and so when I went to uni, because I'm from suburban Melbourne, I would get the train into the city and the tram. Yeah. And then I met people that lived in the colleges. I understood people from the country. I'm like, oh, fair enough, you're from the country. But then I met people that lived closer to the uni than me, in like Hawthorne and Kew, who lived at uni, and I couldn't get my head around. Why are you living at the uni? Like, what? But of course, they were rich kids, so I had no idea what was going on.
And it's fun living at the uni.
Yeah, it was.
So speaking of community colleges and everything else, right? Really good friend of mine who I went to boarding school with. He wasn't the best student at school, right?
No.
Just matriculated at the end of year 12, or just got through his year 12, but wanted to study accounting. But his marks were so low that he could only get into the Institute of Technology Whyalla campus. Right? So he had to move to Whyalla in South Australia to study accounting.
I've done gigs in Whyalla.
And that's
where the sea meets the desert, literally.
It's a little rough around the edges, Whyalla. And
great spot.
Anyway, he wasn't particularly focused on his studies, and it took him 5 years in the end to finish a 3-year course, right?
And he was in Whyalla that whole time.
No, he transferred back to Adelaide for the last couple of years. Anyway, a couple of things happened in his life, and he just decided in his head that he was going to be really successful. And I won't bore you with all the detail about how this happened, but he moved to London, started working for various investment banks. Long story short, he ended up in New York as a vice president of Goldman Sachs for 12 years.
Oh, my God! From Whyalla!
It's an incredible story. And he said one day he had to pinch himself. He's on the trading desk, trading base metals, right? There's 4 of them on the trading desk for Goldman Sachs on Wall Street, right? And he said they're graduates from Harvard, Yale, Kellogg, which is one of the big universities over there, and him, Institute of Technology Whyalla.
They're probably dealing in Whyalla metals too.
That could well have been.
Yeah, because I did the Whyalla Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. It's one you could possibly do, Lehmo. And they put me in this the venue is where you stay at this, and it's like a suburban hotel motel in the middle of nowhere on the edge of Whyalla. And they had a great drive-through bottle shop and chicken shop called the Bottle and Bird. And so all I did was sit down and try and come up with other names for it, so I could get up and say, "What about the chicken and the Chardonnay? What about the plonk and the plonk and the poultry and the plonk?" I had about 10 of them ready to go. They were loving it. But I went in there and I walked in and I said to the guy, "Can I get a bit of salad on my chicken roll?" And the guy actually groaned and went, "Oh." No. And the woman goes, "Oh, come on, Phil. He's obviously not from around here." She said,
"Give the man some greens."
Yeah, give him some bloody... Oh, man, that was actually a good gig, Whyalla. Those country gigs like last night.
Yeah, they were lovely last night.
You know what? It is funny. Like, Hughesy tells the story of he did computer science for 3 months at Swinburne. Yeah. And his joke is, because that was like, would have been the late 80s, early 90s. And he's like, I decided there was nothing in computers and just left. Right. And he still sees one guy that he was at uni with has become the founder of, not Apple, but something like that in Australia, and you see him on billboards and shit, this guy. Right. He's some huge multi-billionaire.
And he's probably a billionaire.
Yeah, and he went to uni with Hughesy, but...
Right.
But anyway, look, whatever.
Mate, I had one day, because I was an accountant for 10 years, right?
Yes.
And I eventually quit to do stand-up, right?
Yeah.
And one day I was in Adelaide, and I'd been in London working, right? And I was back in Adelaide, and I was walking down the street, and I bumped into this guy who I used to work with at the accounting firm where I worked in Adelaide. And he goes, like, really looking down his nose at me, you know, those things. He goes, so you're still doing your little
comedy
and they're
gigs?
always little.
Yeah, little.
They're always little.
Yeah, your little gigs.
You're still doing your little comedy skits and stuff? I said, yeah, I am. He goes, oh, how long are you going to stick with that for?
Oh, God.
I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try and make a career out of it. And he was like, oh, really? Anyway, and I go, what are you doing now? And he goes, oh, I work for the tax office.
Oh,
And
God.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Each to their own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, there's quite a few ex-accountants in comedy. Dilrick, Naz, was Naz an accountant?
Naz was kind of... I don't think Naz really worked as an accountant. I think he might have studied it.
Yeah, okay.
But
right.
there's also...
There's a few.
What's his name?
Vince Sereni?
Suresh?
Oh, Suresh. Yeah, Suriname. Yeah.
Yeah,
Suriname.
he was an accountant.
Yeah.
He was, like me and Dill, he was a proper accountant for quite a while.
Man, interesting. And there's a lot of ex-teachers like me, lawyers.
What do you reckon? It's a broad church. Andrew Hamilton, ex-cons now as well.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few that have done time.
Yes,
on the
there
circuit.
are, absolutely.
But there's teachers, lawyers, accountants,
Nurses, a few nurses.
Yes, nurses.
Yeah. Oh, it's a variety of people.
How many do you know who have only ever done comedy?
Not many.
Who have only-
Tom Ballard. It's the ones who start really young.
Ross Noble.
Yeah, Ross Noble, Tom Ballard.
Ones who have never... Because I don't think Ross Noble's ever had another job.
No, and he was a street performer
He's
too.
only ever been a comedian.
But he's like someone who left to join the circus, like Ross.
Did Tom Ballard at least have like...
He did radio.
He did radio.
He did radio.
But that's kind of in the same...
Triple J.
It's still in the entertainment.
But I don't think he ever worked in a normal
So
job.
he never worked in a cafe?
Tommy Dassolo.
Really?
Dassolo from Dum Dum. I don't reckon he ever... Well, they all started when they were in school.
Yeah, right.
Tommy Dassolo used to come to gigs in his school uniform, I remember.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's those guys that started. I mean, I think it's good to have had a normal job because it reminds you of why you do comedy, because there's no greater joy on a Monday morning going back to bed at 9 a.m. for a nap when you can hear people going to work.
But
And you're
also,
like, well,
I love watching, American sport on a Monday morning.
during the day.
Or a Tuesday, during the day.
yeah.
It's great.
You're like Hughesy. I wait till my time watching NBA. That's all I do. Just watch NBA. I'm obsessed.
He loves it, mate.
Well, I don't. I watch a bit of AFL replays and stuff, but I don't. I'll watch TV series, but. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I've got I got too many fucking apps.
Oh, yeah.
But Optus Sport, it's a good bonding thing for me and my son. We watch soccer
that's
highlights
good.
on a Sunday morning
Oh, that's good.
together.
Yeah,
That's a bit of fun.
Bit of soccer. Anyway, so last night we did a gig for the Alpine Council.
Alpine Shire Council.
And it was bushfire relief. So they had council money. She said they had to use up the money.
Yes.
Because they get all this state government money, and they've
And
got to use it up. Because previously...
Are people going to get annoyed that
Well, I've done flood relief before. And
Actually, I've done bushfire relief before as well.
I've done flood relief gigs, and I've talked to like Dan Connell and me did some up in these areas, and they just like to pay you a bit of money to go up there and bring a bit of joy to the area. And I mean, she was telling us that she'd previously done trivia nights for all the CFA and that, and part of the deal was the questions had to be disaster based.
I mean, that just does not sound like a fun trivia night.
And so DJ Eddie, who was emceeing for us, who is a local Hotham legend who lives up anyone who does skis in Hotham would know Eddie. I've done the General where he lives. He's converted a sauna to a room.
Right.
And he lives at the General. So the General is like the local pub shop.
In whereabouts?
The top of Hotham.
Yeah, right. And that's where DJ Eddie lives.
For most of the year, yes. And he just works up there.
So he's a bit of a cult hero.
He's a cult hero. I think he's also like an amazing skier because I've seen him do stunts on the internet.
Well, he was talking last night about skiing in Switzerland and France.
Yeah. I mean, have you been to the Peak of Hotham? Is incredible because it is like being in Europe because it's actually on the top of the mountain, where all the accommodation is. He got me, I reckon, about 6 years ago, to drive up there to do the General, right, which is like a pub, and it was and he was on stage introducing me, right? Like last night, he gets dressed up as a character, right?
Yes.
He's a character.
And what I loved about his commitment to the character is we had dinner with him first. Then he went off and got dressed as a character and came back and introduced himself to me like we'd met for the first time as the character.
Well, the only other person that's ever done that was Dame Edna. When I worked with Dame Edna, I said, "How you going, Barry?" And he said, "Barry's not here. It's the Dame." I went, "Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course, Dame."
Well, my wife, who worked on the project for years, met, and she was in charge of talent, met Barry Humphries when he arrived at the project. Huge chat. Blah, going on, asking loads of questions about all the people on the panel, everything else. They're getting on like a house on fire. Goes into hair and makeup and sitting there for a while. Then my wife leaves, and then Dame Edna appears and talks to Kel like she's never seen her before in her life.
Yeah.
Hello, what's your name, darling?
Yeah.
And they've just been talking for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's Barry. That's Barry. Well, DJ Eddie. But anyway, at this General gig, so it's a snow gig. Now, snow gigs are often shit because there's just people out there getting drunk, but it's packed. It's absolutely packed at the General on a Wednesday or Thursday night. There's like backpackers, there's teenagers, middle-aged people like us. Some are there for the comedy, some are there to try to pick up, whatever. But you could hear a pin drop when DJ Eddie was on stage, because he's so revered up there, and he's talking to them about, and he's, like last night, he's dropping local content, local names. They're loving him, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, this is going to be easy, man. This is a great crowd." I go on. I was telling you this before I even reached the mic. A guy yelled out, "Oh, a genuine celebrity!" Before I'd even said anything, and I go, "Oh, sorry, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, a real comedian, is it?" And I go, "Who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm with the Ski Patrol," which. I don't know anything about skiing, but they're wankers generally.
Right. Sounds like Paw Patrol.
Yeah. They're like the lifeguards. They're pretty happy with themselves. Right. And from that point on, it was like doing 3 or 4 different gigs. At some point, I was absolutely killing. The whole crowd were on my side. Then the next thing, a fight breaks out, or there's talking, there's people starting playing billiards. I'm just like, what the fuck's going on here? It was like one of those gigs that's like a bar fight.
It's like, you're in a scene from Roadhouse.
Yeah, you're just like, what is going on here? But anyway, last night was very civilized. So it was in the Savoy Club, which is it's like an RSL.
In fact, I think last week in the same room, didn't they have like a school graduation?
The school deb. Yeah, the school formal.
Yeah.
And it was free to get in, and they were great. All the locals were there.
They were loving it. And the front row, and this is right in your wheelhouse, Dave. The front row was full of elder statesmen from the area, including one bloke who had his young daughter.
Sean.
So that and you remembered everyone's name in the front row.
Sean, but also Trinity, the young girl who was 20. Yes. That's Sean's daughter, Sean Kelly's daughter. The woman that I was also talking to, Elvira and Brian, the woman next to them was her grandma. There were 3 generations of people there.
Was there?
Yeah. I didn't get that far, but
okay.
Oh, they were great. I mean, those gigs are, and the food was good.
And
Very old school.
Yes.
Old school food, but great schnitzel. Great old school schnitzel.
I had the spaghetti bolognese, which was very nice as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it was that classic sort of country, because it wasn't completely full. There were some spare chairs, but people spread out in a very...
Yeah, but they sat down the front, which was good.
They sat right at the front.
Yeah.
But there's, but people were smattered right all the way through.
Younger people up the back, the young guys up the back. The young guy, Matteo, who worked in a plywood mill.
That's right. And his girlfriend, who was the mechanic.
She was a mechanic.
Yes.
But it struck me that, I go, what is that, like? Not like a normal mill? Nah, just do plywood. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
And I've done mills workers before. They're rough.
So I guess the mill must be a big thing in town.
Yeah. Mills are big around there. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But
big.
they were great. And then we had a couple of beers with them afterwards watching the footy.
Yeah.
Watching St Kilda nearly get over Brisbane.
It's heartbreaking for Sainers.
You wouldn't want to be a St Kilda fan.
No, I always think of Eric Banner.
I always think of Paul
was-
Kalijah.
Yeah, Saints.
And Matt Hardy.
Yeah, Matt Hardy, big Saints supporters.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking being a Saints supporter. Anyway, speaking of footy, we're watching the. My teenage daughter always loves watching the Big Freeze.
Oh,
And,
yes.
I got to say, Nick and Nakanui. So for people who don't know, it's a charity thing they do for MND. And
Yep.
footballers and celebrities dress up as other famous people and go down this slide at the MCG before the game. Is it
Before the game into a pool of ice.
And you've done it.
I have done it, yes.
And so I got Nick Nakanui, the West Coast player, was at Cool Runnings.
Oh, yeah.
It was, as my daughter said, it was good because it actually used the slide as a prop. Because, of course, Cool Runnings were the
Yes.
Jamaican
Bobsled team.
bobsled team.
Yes.
So, 2 questions. Who did you dress up as?
Okay, so when I did it, there was no theme.
So, what was the theme?
The theme was rock and roll this year. So everyone had a
Yeah, but Cool Runnings wasn't.
Cool Runnings. I don't know.
That's not rock and roll, but
why.
anyway, he could have been
But
Bob
there
Marley.
was-
Anyway.
Maybe it was a Bob Marley thing.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
like
know.
the swimmer who looked like Peter Garrett was great. The bald, what's his name? Yeah, what's his name? Hooden.
It was
He was dressed as Peter
he
Garrett.
was very good. Pink, Erin Phillips'
Oh
Pink,
man,
I thought was good.
She was unbelievable.
She looked exactly like Pink.
Joel as Robbie though.
Sally Pearson as Madonna.
Yeah.
was
That was
good.
good. That was good.
Yeah, the Robbie Williams one, I wasn't sure about that.
No.
That
Come on, Joel.
It didn't read Robbie Williams straight away.
But JB as what was it Guns N'
Oh,
Roses?
Guns N'
That was
Roses.
good.
Great.
Because I straight away went, oh, that's Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Jack Rewalt as the dude from The Killers.
Nah. I know he got up and sang with them at the grand final, but
Yeah.
the Killers look isn't iconic enough to
No. I think
No.
there might have been a bit of pressure on Jack to dress up as that character.
just because he was
I
involved.
think Jack might have gone in another direction, but was...
Oh, really? What, he wanted to blackface or?
No.
I want to do Michael Jackson. You can't, Jack.
No. I think someone else might have said, we reckon you should do The Killers.
Because you got up and sang with
Yeah,
them at the grand
yeah.
final.
So
So what?
the year I did it, there was no theme. It was just dress up however you want.
Yeah.
So Jared Waitley went as a jockey the year I did it. I'm trying to remember who else was on my... Yeah, but anyway, I got body painted as like I was really muscly and in good nick. So I got body painted, so I had abs
Like a bodybuilder.
and pecs, so I looked like a bodybuilder.
And that was
the body,
it.
And the body painting they did was awesome. And I just had Hawthorne dick bathers on,
Oh, right.
and down I went as a He-Man.
Oh, okay. You're like a He-Man.
Yeah.
I get it. And so, my daughter had a theory that they have wardrobe people helping them out with the costumes. Is that correct?
No, not I could. They
Not
just
for
let
you.
me go. They said, "Do whatever you want."
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I reckon.
I think they did that for all of us. That in that year, I did it in the second year, so it would have evolved a bit. Since
Yeah, I
then.
reckon they've got a wardrobe person because some of those costumes are very good.
Yes.
Um,
Although you look at a Joel Selwood, he has done how many Mad Mondays with Geelong, dressing up as
yeah.
different characters.
Yeah, true. Maybe the partners help or something. I
Maybe
don't
the
know.
partners help.
But
yeah.
also, my second question, because a guy tore his ligament, didn't he? Who was it that was a former coach or someone went down?
Chris Fagan.
Oh,
Chris Fagan did a hammy, I think.
oh. So that
Yes.
did you feel it was dangerous at any point?
No, not at all.
No, you weren't scared.
No. It's not that big. It's a tiny little slippery dip.
Oh, it's a little slide thing. Right,
Yeah.
right.
And you just go into
But you're going into very cold water,
You're
which
going into-
obviously
cold water, which
you have a heart attack.
shocks you a bit, but
Yeah.
it's good. Feels good. I felt great for the rest of the day.
Oh, well, there you
I
go.
highly recommend an ice bath. I went. You know how that's a real thing now.
I
Ice
know,
baths.
I know.
I went
Certain
and did one.
comedians, Glenn Robbins,
I did-
Husey.
Oh, do they do them regularly?
Well, I think they're trying. I don't know.
Joel Creasy does one every day at home. He's
What?
got the home one, so I think it's inflatable. And he said the guy at his local survey looks at him weirdly when he buys 10 bags of ice every day to put in the ice bath, but he swears by it. Tommy Little does them regularly.
Really?
I did one with Tommy one day.
Yeah, Glenn Robbins does them.
It was so fucking, like, this is going to sound stupid, but it was so fucking cold. I was like, nah. And I did feel good afterwards.
But I'm just worried about heart attacks, that kind of thing. Because
Well, you and I are in the heart attack zone.
well, some guy was telling me at the bar last night, mate, because he went to school with me.
yeah.
He was a year below me, and he said, mate, so you're 59? I said, yeah. He goes, mate, if we get to 63, we're sorted, mate. We'll live till 80 at least. We just got to get through the next 4 years. I said,
So what's the thinking behind that?
well, apparently all the heart attacks and stuff stop when you hit 63.
Really?
But one of my mates used to go on about making it through your 40s was important.
Oh, right.
And once you get to your mid-50s, you're sorted.
Oh,
But I still have...
Everyone's got a fucking...
Everyone's got a theory, but there's still people dying, like of heart attacks and stroke.
Mate, I'm going to Google heart attacks by age.
Yeah, let's do it. Because I do know that the number 3, what do you reckon is the number 3 killer in men over 70? You'll never guess. Number 3
It's
killer.
number 3 killer. So I'm going to say fucking heart disease is 1.
No. Yeah, heart disease is 1.
Heart disease is 1.
Stroke is 2.
Stroke is 2. Is it fucking accidents?
Yes, falling off a ladder.
Falling off
So
a
do
fucking
not,
ladder.
like my dad, for example.
Mate, I never would.
May he rest in peace. When he would help at the church, I reckon he would have been 80. He was up a ladder, fell off, cracked his ankle, was lying there in pain. He was there for like half an hour. No one came to help him. See, that's what happens. These old guys get up on ladders and they just bang. Okay, anyway.
Right, I've just Googled heart attack by age group.
Yeah, what's the biggest age group for heart attack? In men.
Is there an average age range for heart attacks? This is American.
Oh, we'll let Fab
So the average age of a person at the time of their first heart attack in the United States is between 65 and 72.
Oh, wow. Okay.
However, heart attacks can happen to anyone. An article from 2019 notes the incidence of heart attacks is rising for those under the age of 40. Fuck me dead.
Yeah.
Well, they were talking about, I saw something about the cocaine epidemic.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
they were,
right.
the other day, and they were talking about people under 40 having heart attacks. So here's by percentage. 80 to 89, 12% of heart attacks. 70 to 79, 18%. So 50 to 59, 27% of heart attacks
Yeah, so that's quite high.
happen between 50 and 59.
Yeah, that's quite high. That's what this guy was saying. But what about strokes? My mum had strokes. Strokes is a big one. Heart attacks, like, we know people that have heart attacks. Dilrook had one.
Dilrook had one. I mean,
Brad Oakes had one.
Oakesy had one recently, and he mentioned it like he mentioned buying a new T-shirt. He goes, "Oh yeah, that was just after I had a heart attack a couple of months ago."
Yeah, he had a second heart attack.
We were both like,
What?
Whoa, hang on a sec. You had a heart attack 2 months ago?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do stroke by age now.
Oh, God, that's my big worry. But my mum had a stroke when she was 30-something. Went to the washing line. We were watching Disneyland. Didn't come back. And, Dad's like, where's Mum? Oh. Anyway, she recovered, but then she had another one in her 70s, I reckon, which affected her.
Yeah, right.
But stroke would be hard for a comedian because it affects your speech.
Well, you got to talk, don't you?
Yeah. But you know what? Yeah, we're both lucky in that we live with partners because that's a factor for people having a stroke by themselves at home. Because
right.
yeah, you can get up and
There's
go.
no one to call the fucking stroke
Well, and
bus.
you feel like you're a bit wonky or whatever, but no one's listening to you speak, where your language gets a bit. So when my mum had a second stroke, she started slurring her words. Dad took her to the doctor, and the doctor's like, it's just food poisoning. And Dad's like, yeah, I don't think so, mate. Took her straight to the hospital, and they went, yeah, she's having a stroke because she was slurring her words.
Average age 74
Oh, wow.
for a stroke. And the risk increases significantly after the age of 60.
Oh, okay.
But you can have a stroke at any age.
Well, as you know, they can just be dormant, just like sitting there.
Overall, the most common age for a stroke in men is 71.
Okay.
In women is 77.
Okay, right. All right.
There you go. This has turned into a real medical podcast.
Anyway, we should talk about the gig last night. So, what went well, Lehmo? What went well in the gig?
You know what? They really loved the drinking stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Drinking too much.
They did. I mean, let's be fair, I was watching the footy, but in the next bar, but I could hear you getting good laughs. I watched some
And
of you.
also, just talking about relationship
I
issues
love
that we
that.
don't discuss.
Yes.
You know what? I do this bit. I'm doing this bit at the moment about the fantasy you have about leaving your partner.
Oh yeah.
Where you dream of a life.
Well, I always drive past the block of flats near my house and I could live there. I could live there.
And if you've been in a relationship for 10 years or longer, you are lying to yourself if you've never had a fantasy about leaving your partner, right? It might only be fleeting, or it could be a fantasy that endures for years.
What about the Kate Lambert used to talk about? What about the widow fantasy, where you picture you at the funeral of your husband, like in your black gown and looking all serious, and she's a widow. She used to fantasize about that, being the widow.
Yeah, right. So that people really connected to that.
Yeah.
And then the stuff about getting old. The accidental farts.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Farts you can't control.
Yeah.
Because the age profile of the room was right for that.
And then right on cue as we walked out of the venue, you started farting. So it was like, wow, you're not lying.
I really did.
Yeah, you're really
I did
really
wait
on topic.
I did wait until we're out of the venue.
We did.
Though.
Yeah.
What about yourself? What did you?
Oh no, it was all. Oh, you know what? They were great. They were good. Yeah, any of that kind of stuff about relationships, how it was better in the 80s. Because it was predominantly an older crowd.
Well, I did a little bit of 80s stuff as well.
What didn't go well? Anything? Probably what didn't go well. I often find drug stuff doesn't go well in the country, but I didn't do much. I didn't do any drug stuff.
You know what? There was a couple of moments. There was something early on where I swore a bit too much in a bit.
Yeah.
And I noticed I was being judged harshly.
Well, DJ Eddie swore a fair bit. So he paved the way. Were there any organisational hazards got in the way? It was pretty lit up. The room was...
Oh, it was lit up like a 7-Eleven.
Man.
You tried to get the lights turned down. What happened to that?
They turned them down, but you couldn't notice it.
I didn't notice.
There was more lights on the side there.
There were lights on everywhere.
All right, well, how can we do better next time?
That was as well lit.
Get a stage light. I've got one in the back of my car. We should have done that. Get my stage light.
But you know what? I don't mind. I kind of don't mind the lights being up.
No, you can see everyone.
I like to see everyone. I like to see people's faces. I hate, my absolute worst case is a completely black room and a spotlight on me where I can't see anyone.
Yeah, see, some people, Carl Barron loves that.
I fucking hate that.
Carl Barron goes, I don't want to see anyone. And then someone said, but you do a bit of crowd work. He goes, oh, yeah, I can see the front rows, but that's it, you know.
But Carl knows they're laughing. I have to see their faces.
Yes.
I've got to see them. If they're not laughing, I have to see them smiling at least.
Well, Carl Barron said to me once, years ago, you know what it's like when you go into a theatre to like 10,000 people, 5,000 people, and they're all laughing and they're having a great time, and you go back to your hotel room and you just start crying? I said,
no.
I don't know what that's like.
I mean, the crying bit, sure.
Yeah, but the 10,000 people, no.
Don't know about that. How does that go?
Oh, man. Anyway, look, follow Lehmo on Instagram. His son is blown up on Instagram. Check that out.
Yeah, he's
ladies. Has he done any more gigs?
I'm touring with him.
Oh, how fun
Did I tell
is
you
that?
this? No. Mate, I'm doing a comedy cruise in July, and he's coming with me as my warm-up act.
Oh, how fun is that?
And we're about to do a little publicity run. So we're doing the Today Show and the Project next week.
Oh, hilarious. Together. Oh, wow.
And he's got a few jokes, but they're all roasting me, which I guess is fine.
That's fine. Look,
yeah.
How long will he do?
5 minutes.
Oh, that's enough.
And he said to me, which is a fair enough question, he goes, how will I know when to get off stage? Because he doesn't know.
No.
Like, there'll be a light. And he'll be like, what light?
Yeah, you just got to...
So I think I might have to sit out on the stage with him.
Yeah, or just walk out when he does his... I've done that before when people have gone too long.
I just walk out
to start clapping. Oh, there he is, Lehmo, everyone. And they look around like, what the fuck? And you're like, you got to go, mate.
Yeah, get off.
Get off. Anyway, so keep your eye for that.
So yeah, he'll be supporting me. I mean, should I be taking my 7-year-old son, on the road with me? Why
well,
not?
it's good bonding, and I mean, there's nothing ever goes wrong with child stars. Look at the cast of Different Strokes.
What could possibly go wrong?
Look, Matthew Newton. I mean, there's plenty of.
There's wins all over the place. Michael Jackson,
MJ. But then you got to look at people like I'm trying to think of one who just transitioned into
Charlie Sheen. Oh no,
hang on. The guy from Ozarks, wasn't he?
Oh, so Jodie Foster?
Jodie Foster, she went through. She
There
come
we
out
go.
all right.
Drew Barrymore?
Drew Barrymore.
She's had some wild moments, but I
Yes.
think she's done all right, hasn't she?
Yeah, there's been a few. Don't worry.
Who's an Australian child star?
Nathan Cavalieri. Remember he used to play the guitar? Remember Nathan Cavalieri?
Ah,
Play the
yeah.
guitar? Hey Dad, the kid from Hey Dad, the fat kid from Hey Dad.
No,
Matthew Kroc.
what did he end up doing?
He became a Mormon.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, because they did one of those Where Are They Now shows. So remember the fat kid from Hey Dad? He would just turn up occasionally and be cute. And then he was on that
Yeah.
Sorbonne ad.
Oh, the Minogues. Young talent.
Minogues were huge. Tina Arena.
Tina Arena, yes.
Look, she's got some very conservative views, but that's whatever.
Who
Little
else?
teeny Tiny Tina.
She lived in Fitzroy for a brief period of time, about a block from us.
Yeah, she used to live in Richmond. I used to see her in the supermarket.
And, but it was too rowdy.
One day I saw her in the supermarket doing her shopping, and then I saw her on Hey Hey wearing the same outfit. I went, well, I do that. It's fair enough.
Nothing wrong
Hey,
with that.
she was just in Coles wearing that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Young Talent Time used to be a big
It was massive.
thing here.
But what other child? What about from movies? Well, hey, what about the feral
Macaulay
kid?
Culkin.
The feral kid from Mad Max.
What happened to him?
Oh, what happened to him? Any ideas?
No. I think they have followed him up. Or the baby from Nirvana, he just keeps suing
Oh,
Nirvana.
didn't he sue?
Yeah, he
sued,
keeps
yeah.
suing them.
Come on, mate.
Come on, mate.
Sue your parents.
Anyway,
Sue
that
anyone, sue your
I think we
parents.
laddie's suing you in 10
Yeah, he'll
10
be
years'
suing me
time.
in a few years' time.
Oh, yeah. Well, Apple, Gwyneth, and Chris Martin's kids cracked it with them and said, don't
Did they?
put... Yeah. She said, I don't want... Why have I got a digital footprint? Like, stop, Yeah,
Oh,
Apple
right.
cracked it, mate. Apple. Don't know what happened to banana and orange, but anyway. Woo!
And
All right, well, good to have you on, Lehmo. We've got a few more hours of driving.
All right.
Awesome
Thanks, Dave.
times.